Hey family, in this video, I want to talk to you about the enrolled agent exam. Okay, so typically, if you're looking it up, you'll find it under the special enrollment exam because that is the exam that you have to take to become enrolled to represent taxpayers before the IRS to become an EA. Okay, so a lot of people will come and ask me, whether it's via social media, DMs, or emails, Timolin, how do you study for the EA exam? So it occurred to me that people don't utilize the resources that are right in front of them. So in today's video, not only am I going to talk about what's on the EA exam, but I'm going to show you where Prometric has it right on their website, what is going to be covered on the exam. All right, so we're going to head over to the Prometric site. I'm going to give you the rundown. But before I get there, if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell so you know when I go live, when I post a new video, and make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more content like it. If you're thinking, why in the world would I do that? I don't even know who you are. My name is Timolyn Bowens, and I am America's favorite EA. All right. And on this channel, I give information to help taxpayers avoid owing the IRS, but I also help my fellow enrolled agents and aspiring enrolled agents with running their firm. So let's head right over to Prometric. If you're not familiar, Prometric is the website where you go to schedule your EA exam. Okay, let's change this format just a little bit. All right. So you go to Prometric. This is where you schedule your exam because you can take your Prometric or take your EA exam at any Prometric site in the country if you're in the US. Now, if you're not in the US, it's a little more tricky because there aren't as many sites to take the test. And something that I learned since I've been doing these videos is that there are certain dates that you can take the test as well. So definitely kudos to those of you who aren't in the US who are studying for this exam and have a much shorter window to get that taken care of. So you would go here to prometric.com to schedule your exam, find a location, etc. But today, like I said, we're going to focus on looking at the questions that are going to be on the exam. So, as I mentioned before, it's not actually called the EA exam, it's called the Special Enrollment Exam, okay? And then we see it pop up here, IRS Special Enrollment Examination. We're going to click here. Takes a little bit longer to load when I'm sharing my screen. Let's go ahead and accept these cookies. And when we scroll down, we have the information for locating a test center near you. We have information for how to schedule and confirm your exam date and location, rescheduling or scheduling. And I will say, I do believe there is a fee that you have to pay when you reschedule. So just be aware of that, okay? But let's go down. There's also other information here to help you prepare for that day. Excuse me. So, I've said this before in other videos, but the EA exam is essentially going to test your tax competency. So we have three parts. First is going to cover individuals. Number two is going to cover businesses. And then number three is going to be more so, I'd say, tax law, policy, procedure, your circular 230, ethics, a tad bit of representation as far as the rules, but not the how to. Okay. So even after you pass the um, special enrollment exam, all three parts, you still won't know how to represent clients before the IRS, which is why I recommend getting a mentor. Shameless plug. You can join my mentorship group, which is at www.americasfavoriteea.com, where we have the monthly version, or you can do the articles. But Continuing along, right here under number 3, we have review exam content outlines. Now, this is key, and you want to make sure that you actually pay attention to this because it's not going to give you the exact questions that are going to be on the exam, but it's going to tell you what is going to be covered on the exam and how many questions are going to be in each area. So let's look at part 1 individuals, and I'll give you an idea of what it's talking about, okay? Now, I don't know about you, I can't see that well, so let me make it a little bit bigger, okay? Alright. So, let's see. There we go. So, domain 1 is going to be preliminary work and taxpayer data. There are gonna be 14 questions covering this information. So, you can see here that the information in here is gonna be use of prior year's returns for comparison, accuracy, and carryovers. We have taxpayer personal information, residency status and citizenship, filing requirements and due date, taxpayer filing status, sources of worldwide taxable and non taxable income. So, if you are a US citizen, no matter where you make the money, it's going to be reported on your 1040, right? Now, is all of it going to be taxable or not? That's a different question, but all of that's going to be reported on the 1040. Sources of applicable exclusions and adjustments to gross income. And it gives you examples there: HSAs, alimony paid, health insurance, sources of applicable deductions, itemized and standard, qualifications for dependency, sources of applicable credits, sources of tax payments and refundable credits, previous IRS correspondence with the taxpayer, additional required returns to be filed and taxes paid, special filing requirements, foreign account and asset reporting. So people who have, was it the 10,000 or more in bank accounts overseas, looking at that FBAR requirement. We have minor children's unearned income, which is kiddie tax, and the ACA requirements. Okay, so with that, what they're spelling out for you is all of the material that I just went over. There are going to be 14 questions pulled from that information. So these are the things that you need to focus on and make sure that you understand. If you have been preparing 1040s for years, you still would want to refresh yourself on this, but you probably pretty likely know it already. Okay. The next part, and remember there are 100 questions here. The next part, we have 17 questions that are going to cover income. Now, I'm not going to read all of this, and I showed you how to get here, but with part 2, the income and assets, again, we have 17 questions. It's going to cover income, taxability of different income, right? Retirement income. So it's giving you specific details and giving you an idea of what you need to sharpen up on and what you may need to refresh up on as well. Property, real and personal, so income from that. So understanding like stock bases, understanding the sale of a home exclusion, section 121. You can see right there. Installment sales, like kind exchange, adjustments to income. So these are going to be the things that you find on Schedule 1 that are adjustments that are going to reduce the taxable income, right? So then we have Domain 3, which is going to cover deductions and credits, an additional 17 questions. So we have the itemized deductions in QBI. So QBI might be going away after this year, right? Because that is something that came as a result of the Tax Cut and Job Act when that was passed in 2017. So QBI was supposed to be for tax years 2018 through 2025. Depending on what Congress does right now, that may not be something that we see in the 2026 tax year. So still on the 2025 tax return, but not for the 2026 year. So that's something you want to keep up to date with in the news, but it will be on the EA exam for right now. All right. And this window opened May 1st and it will close February 28th. So for now, you still need to know about QBI. All right. It's going to also cover credit. So we see the child and dependent care credit, child tax credit, and credit for other dependents, education credits, earned income credit, the ACA premium tax credit, and then other refundable and non refundable credits. All right. For part four, we have taxation. Taxation, so we're looking at AMT. That's what alternative minimum tax is. We have the tax for household employees, which, if you don't know, is on Schedule H. If you didn't know that, you might want to write that down. The tax for household employees is calculated and figured on Schedule 8. Self-employment tax, excess Social Security withholding, income in respect of decedent. So all of these things, again, are what you would need to make sure you have studied and understand, because there are going to be 15 questions about taxation, and it could be pulled from any of those things above. So next, we have advising the individual taxpayer. So making sure that you understand the obligations for somebody when it comes to reporting. So a lot of people I see will say, "Oh, well, they have a 1099, but it's under the standard deduction. They don't have to file." That is incorrect. If somebody has 1099 income, they still need to file that 1099. And then if it is a wash, hallelujah, amen. But it still needs to be reported. Otherwise, your client's going to get a CP 2000 because they're going to have a third party tax document that says they had income that's not shown on the tax return. Okay. So then we also have property sales, education planning, retirement planning, marriage, divorce, items that will affect future and past returns. So again, this is a lot of stuff in here. Injured spouse and innocent spouse, that is going to be a tad bit of representation work. On this YouTube channel right here, I have videos on injured spouse and innocent spouse that you can check out. I've also covered them on the Tax Relief with Timbaland Bowens podcast. So if you don't have study material yet, you can go check out those podcast episodes and learn a little bit, sorry, and see the forms that are used to help to do injured and innocent spouse. Okay. Next, we have 11 questions from the section specialized returns for individuals. So we have estate tax covered. We also have gift tax covered. And then we have international information reporting. So all of that is going to be pulled, 11 questions are going to be pulled from that. So, excuse me. If you want to know what's going to be on the EA exam for the first one, this cheat sheet is free right on the Prometric site, and you can take a look at it again to see what areas you're really strong in and to see which ones you need a little bit extra help. So let's go back. They also have one for business and they also have one for representation, practice, and procedures. So again, just clicking on these, the PDF is there for anybody to check out. I'm not going to go through all of this. Uh-oh. But just to give you an idea of what's on part two, I will say I've heard people say that part two is the hardest. I think it depends on your experience and your study habits. Part two, test two, section two, whatever you want to call it, was actually the easiest for me. But the reason for that is because I had experience in doing business returns already from working in a CPA firm and then also from doing it in my own business. So take what other people say with a grain of salt. You have to figure out what is best for you and what works best for you. So the first part where we're looking at 30 questions is being pulled from business entities. So make sure you understand what a sole proprietorship is, right? Make sure you understand what a partnership is, a corporation, S corporation, LLCs, tax exempt entities and associations. So those are going to be your 990s and your private foundations. entity type default classifications, and elections. So, for example, if we have somebody that's a single member LLC, that defaults to being a sole proprietor, unless they make an election to be taxed as an S Corp or a corporation. If we have two people in a business together who are not spouses, that is going to default to a partnership. So, those are the types of things you need to understand. And again, if you don't have an accounting background, you can still become an enrolled agent. But my advice in studying for the exam, and in addition to that, if you plan to work with businesses, I do recommend that you do some type of accounting 101, maybe get an accounting certificate. But you need to understand how accounting works to better serve your clients if you're going to be doing tax returns with balance sheets and income statements. Okay. Now, I've been asked and I have it in the works. I'm working on an accounting 101 for enrolled agents. Okay. And in that course, I'm going to cover different things like assets, equity, liability, how to fill out a balance sheet, what does retained earnings in the capital account actually look like? What should they look like? Okay. So if you're to this section and you're kind of flipping out, don't. We have a resource on the way for you. Make sure if you're not already that you go to americasfavoriteea.com, subscribe to my email list because they will be finding out about it first. Okay? Next section is partnerships, corporations in general, earnings and profit, forming a corporation, S corporations, and we have 30 questions coming from just that. Next, we have 37 questions coming from business tax preparation. This is looking at business income. So we're looking at gross receipts and other income, cost of goods sold. This is important for our people who are selling products, right? Or they are making something. Cancellation of business debt, business expenses, deductions and credits. And then we have business assets. Depreciation has some of you all in a chokehold because you don't understand how it works. But again, not saying that that's the end of the world. You may not have an accounting background, and that's why there's that gap where you're not quite understanding what is going on, what's happening. You can still be an enrolled agent. You can still do business tax returns, but make sure you educate yourself so you understand how those things work so that you're actually being of service to your clients and not being a hindrance to them. Okay. We have the analysis of financial records, balance sheet, method of accounting and changes, depreciation recovery, advising the business taxpayer, right? So that's 37 questions. The first section was 30, then we have 37. So we got 18 here for specialized returns and taxpayers. So we have trust and estate, income tax, exempt organizations. You see, there's not much with 990. So if you've never worked with nonprofits, don't flip out too much because not as much material is going to be covered from there. We have retirement plans, farmers, which was interesting to me because I'm in Kentucky. So the first farm return I ever did was actually a horse farm. A different story for a different day, but there is going to be some information about farms on there. And then we do have rental properties. Okay. And that, friends, is going to be part two. Since we've already, oh, I'm back. Since we looked at one and two, let's go ahead and take a look at what's going to be on three, and then we'll wrap this up. Of course, if you have any questions along the way, make sure you drop them in the comments. I think it's pretty common knowledge at this point that if you want to know what study material I would recommend, I personally use Passkey Online, which now Hawk International has the license to. I still recommend them. Gleim is also good, but I believe that Gleim is for people who need more structured study habits, right? If you're self motivated and you can go get it, I think Hawk is amazing. But I think Gleim doesn't have a bit more structure, and for people who are just graduating from college or from military background, etc., I think Gleim may be a better fit for them. But let me get over here to 3. And let's see, you guys can't see my screen yet. So 3, we're looking at practice, procedure, law, right? So we have practice and procedures, 26 questions. We're looking at practice before the IRS. What constitutes as practice before the IRS? Remember, if you are trying to be an enrolled agent, I most definitely think that you need to be doing representation. I think we all should if we're enrolled agents. Everybody doesn't want to do that. Next, we're looking at requirements for enrolled agents, right? So remember, only enrolled agents, CPAs, and tax attorneys can represent taxpayers before the IRS. So we are actually held to a higher standard under Circular 230 when it comes to ethics, when it comes to due diligence, when it comes to continuing education. So it's important not just for the exam that you understand the requirements for enrolled agents, but also just for your own personal knowledge, because you need to understand the higher bar that you are being held to, and you also need to understand the consequences if you mess up. Okay? So, requirements for enrolled agents, sanctionable actions. Again, sanctionable acts and rules and penalties. You need to understand this because you can't afford to get caught up making the same mistakes that some of your counterparts can, because the Office of Professional Responsibility within the IRS can sanction you, and you can get hit with both civil and potentially criminal penalties. Okay? Next, we have representation before the IRS. There's 25 questions. So we're talking about the power of attorney, the purpose of the power of attorney, signature authority, authority granted by the taxpayer. I do have a podcast episode on tax relief with Timbaland Bowens that covers the 2848, and there is a video on here as well. Now, if you want to know in more detail about how to fill out the 2848, there is a mini class that is available to my article subscribers, which that's 25 a month. Within it, there's the article, and then at the bottom, there's actually the video of me walking you through filling out the 2848. And it's the 2848 that's actually filled out completely, but I'm going over the different codes with you and how to actually upload that. Okay. Next, building the taxpayer's case, preliminary work, taxpayer financial situation, supporting documentation, legal authority and references, related issues, and then we get to specific areas of representation. So we have 20 questions here. We have representing a taxpayer in the collection process. Here are the different things that you want to make sure that you understand about representing a taxpayer in the collection process, okay? Penalties and or interest abatement. So I do have a video on Form 843 that I had to take down because actually they updated the form. But if you are interested in learning about penalty abatement on the Tax Relief with Timbaland Bowens podcast, I do have abating penalties for reasonable cause and first time penalty abatement also at americasfavoriteda.com. There is an article that walks you through penalty abatement as well. Okay. We have representing a taxpayer in audits and examinations, representing a taxpayer before appeals, and then we have 14 questions in the filing process. So we're looking at accuracy, record maintenance, electronic filing, and then we have section 3, test 3 wrapped up. So I hope you found that helpful. Again, utilize the resources that are right in front of you. You wouldn't want to just blindly go buy an EA review system and not know yourself, not having done your own homework to know what's going to be on the EA exam. Because even when you buy that material, This is still good because it directs you where in the material you need to go because now you have insight into what percentage of the test is going to cover a certain area. And you know the areas that you're going to be weak in, and you know the areas that you're a little bit stronger in. So it helps you direct the focus of what you need to study, right? Well, I'm wishing you all the best with your studying, with picking out an EA review system. Please don't hesitate to let me know when you've passed the EA exam down in the comments. If there's other material that you would like for me to cover that would help you to pass the EA exam, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next video.